customer brought me this car that he bought. I wish he'd brought it before he bought it, but he didn't. And he asked me to have a look at it, see what kind of condition it's in. The paintwork is fairly good, so-so. Some of the bodywork's a bit iffy, but the main thing that really concerns me, apart from some electrical issues and some other things, the main thing that I'm really upset about or concerned about is a door gap on the top of the top here, between the top of the fender and the top of the door. As you can see, it's quite substantial. It's way bigger than it should be. This is a problem with TR6s, especially in Canada. It seems to be. I see a lot of this. When the door gap's really wide on the top, and then it's narrow on the bottom. And one of the other things I'm not keen on the car is the fact that on the bottom here, where the rocker panel has been straightened out, it looks like it's been done with one piece, and a bondo line has been put in here. That's just a line. When they put a filler in, they draw a line in with a card, and it's way too sharp and it's too smooth. These two items should be completely separate. So continuing up here, when I look at the top of the fender, between the deck and the fender, there should be a body line where the two pieces are joined together because they're bolted together. And what I'm finding is this feels to be flat, plus the fact I don't have a dish in the deck. The deck's got a really slight dish in it, and the body line between should be very distinctive, and it isn't. It looks like it's been filled over or brazed and then filled, and the body line's been put in with bondo. It's way too straight and it's way too sharp. But my main concern is the door gap. So what I think we'll do now is take the car inside and put it on the hoist, and then I'll explain why I'm so concerned about the door gap. Now, what I'd like to do is explain a bit about the frames on the Triumphs first, on the TR models. All of them except the TR7 and the TR8. They started off with the TR3s and the TR2s, and I have a diagram of a frame now, and as you can see on the frame, it's an old ladder type frame. A ladder frame just runs with two rails from front to back, and all the suspension hangs off it, and so does the body bolted to it. You can see the two rails outlined in red, and these are the two frame rails, and as I say, they run from front to back. The problem with the ladder frames is they have a lot of flexing. They twist from one end to the other. So one of the ways that you can stop this happening is you put a cross piece in the center. As you can see, it goes from the cross piece, it goes from the front of the rear springs down to the tower support on the front for the independent suspension that's on the front. Now if we go to the TR4 frame, you can see it's almost the same, except the frame rails are more wider apart on the outside. This gives the floor more room inside the car. That's what they were looking for. And it gives the seats, you can put bigger seats in, all that kind of stuff. But it makes the car just a little bit wider. So now progressing from the TR4 frame to the TR4A, where they put an independent suspension in the rear. And this changes the frame dynamics completely, actually. It's a whole different thing. But as we look at the picture, there are two main changes in the frame. There's an independent rear suspension, of course, but if you'll notice, there's a doubling of the frame rails. There's two sets go down. Now you can see the the frame rails supporting the independent suspension at the rear, and then going forward to reach the piece close to the tower supports. But instead of the cross in the centre, the support has moved to the outside of basically moved to the outside of the frame rails. Now the effect of this is that it makes the frame seemingly a lot wider, but what it's doing is connecting to the body now further out on the nearer the sills and the rocker panels, and it's supporting it near the back. So in effect, it's almost like GM used to call them a perimeter frame. The frame's all the way around the outside of the body rather than just being on the inside. So naturally now, with the body being bolted on the outside, the frame being wider, it stops a lot of the flexing, or helps to stop the flexing. Here are the two cross members outlined that are supporting the differential. Now notice where the diff is fastened to the two cross members, and they're 6 or 9 inches above the main frame rail. Now when in front of it is a support that takes the torque of the diff and passes it to the main frame rails, because it's welded to it, so it passes the load and the torque all the way down through the diff into the main frame rails from the cross member where the diff is mounted, because the diffs are not directly mounted to anything else outside the cross members. Just to explain things a bit further, when the differential is driving the wheels this way forward, the differential has a torque reaction of wanting to go backwards. So what is bolted to the frame, so the thing it's trying to do is lift up the front of the frame. Now as we look at the picture of a TR6 frame, you can see that they've made some modifications. Some of them to me weren't really an improvement. They took away the main support from the actual cross member supporting the differential, where it fastened it down to the frame rails going from front to back. What's happening now, the torque reaction from the diff through the mount is pulling the cross members back, while at the same time the wheels are pushing on the trailing arm mounts, and that's putting stress on the now unsupported frame rails. Notice where the support on the TR4A is, where it's positioned, and now it's missing on the TR6 frame. So what happens, the frame starts to bend upwards just as a result of the stress and the twist, what's virtually the twisting motion on the back end of the frame. I'm not saying that Triumph did a really bad job. I don't think they expected people to be driving the cars 50 years later than when they built them. Plus the fact there was financial stress at British Leyland during the 70s, to say the least. That's when these cars were built. Penny pinching was the way to go. Unfortunately, the bit that they took out of the frame, don't think it was a good idea. But anyway, the thing is now, when people replace the arm that the trailing arm fastens to on the chassis, they don't look at the small section in between. And you might think, from what I've been saying, that there will be big holes in it or big cracks, but actually it doesn't work out that simple. I just want to show you something. This is on a different car, a different TR6, one that has decent door gaps in it, but I'll just show you how much movement there needs to be in the frame just to produce 1/2 or 3/4 of an inch movement on the top of the door. So we'll go and do that now. So I'm looking at the door gap on a different car. This isn't the car that has a problem. This is actually a fairly good car. It's got a nice door gap all the way down. But what I wanted to show you was, if you can just imagine this first, that the frame for the car is level with the rocker panel. It's the bottom of the frame is about the bottom of the rocker panel, and the top of the frame is just about where the top of the rocker panel or the sill is. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to get a piece of tape and I'm going to stick it as a straight edge for us to use on here. And then on the bit at the top, I'm going to stick it across, and I'm going to measure off here, calling this a door gap. I'm going to measure about 1/2 inch there. So that's what we're going to call the door gap. Now the depth of the frame is the same as a rocker panel. So I've got my straight edge here. I'm going to put this down on my block of wood, so I don't have to try and support it. Now, if you imagine now that this is the depth of the frame, that's the bottom of the frame, and this is the top, and our door gap is fine where it is. Now I've got to put my glasses on for this. So now I move out the bar just to get a door gap of 1/2 inch. If you notice down here where the top of the frame is, we've only got probably less than 1/16 of an inch of movement on the top. So that's how much movement there needs to be in the frame to end up with 1/2 inch of a door gap. It's 1/16 of an inch or less. So it's not like there's going to be big cracks or marks or anything else in the frame. That can deflect on the frame without too much trouble. 1/16 of an inch, even though it's large in frame terms, it's quite a bit in steering geometry and everything else. If you think of it the way that the frame's moving, you can imagine now, if that's the bottom of the frame and now it moves to there, it gives you 1/2 inch, you've moved barely 1/16 of an inch. Now one of the other things that guys might have the idea to do, which is worth thinking about, I suppose, is by using the body mounts on the back of the body and lifting the back of the body up to make the door gap go closer. The only problem with that is this works in reverse. When you want to, if you put a straight edge on the back of here, on the back of the door gap, and put it back to the back of the car, you'll find that when you close the gap up here, you'll be an inch or possibly more than an inch on the back mount to get rid of this gap. So it's not that easy. Anyway, we'll go back and have a look underneath the bottom of the car. So where we'll start to have a look at this is if we look on the back section of the frame, you can see there's holes in it already, it's rotted. And the arms on the side where the trailing arms for the suspension go has been replaced with a rectangular tube that's like solid, and it looks like it's 1/4 inch thick. It's just been welded into the plate, and then the centre section where it goes under the frame, where the frame rails go from front to back, the main frame rails, they've just had a 1/8 plate just stuck on there and welded, and inside here you can see it's slightly rotten, and it's a bit very weak around the top and right around here and down on the leg. And the area that I was talking about on the diagrams between where the differential comes down and where it starts again where the arms are, that gap in here, is really weak. You can see it and you can feel it because the metal's crunching in between. So the amount of movement I need in here is very little, and after looking at the frame you can see exactly the area that's going to be a problem. And it is a problem because the door gap's opened up tremendously. And as I say, it's rotten all the way down there. And then there's even move down the frame here and look along the sides on the main frame. It's not very good. We're looking at iffy bits. And again, there's been little plates welded in onto the arms. The rocker panels haven't even been welded. Somebody's put them on the outside, just folded them over and just left the fold to keep them in place. And the same on this side here, you can see. And there's actually holes on the inner fender, which are pretty bad all the way along. And then there's, keep going down there, there's bits falling off, there's just holes everywhere. Pretty crappy. And then another thing that's concerning me is there's been welding and pieces done on the lower control arm brackets on the frame for the front, and the same on here. And this one you can even see it's misaligned. So putting the new tyres on was a bit of a mistake. There's one of the other things too, on the differential, when I look over the differential, all the bolts have been changed. The repair has had a piece put in the top and just bolts put through, but unfortunately when I look at the differential now is offset and it's also tilted, so the diff isn't in the right place. It's slightly off. With the U-joints being on it, I suppose it make a lot of difference, but it's over to one side by about 3/4 of an inch. But it's this way and a bit up as well. So the whole thing's a bit of a mess, like this whole thing, the plate, the pieces put in. And I don't know how well these wheels are aligned with the front wheels. They've got to follow the front. So if they're towing in or towing out, I don't know if that's been done. So all in all, the thing's pretty crappy. It's not something I would want to get involved with. The only way you could fix this is take the body off and start again with a frame, preferably with another one. Anyway, that's it.